Well, Ben Belt's trench coat left a comment about vocabulary, and I thought I'd talk about a little about vocabulary as I walk along. Vocabulary, particularly big words, 3 syllables or more, are an interesting species of language, and I have an opinion. I'd like to offer a suggestion about using vocabulary, and then offer a suggestion about gaining vocabulary that I hope might be helpful. First of all, using vocabulary. Vocabulary to me, large words are like jewels, or like precious gems that you would never wear every day, that you would only bring out on special occasions, and that you would treat with great caution. That's, I think, an apt way to describe using big words. Let me run to the light here. And the reason is that if you're not cautious, if you're not careful with your big words, you will find yourself in a situation of looking a fool. Just like if you wore a ruby earrings, giant ruby earrings to work, or a diamond ring, giant diamond ring to a hamburger joint. And so likewise with big words, try to apply them where necessary. And the rule of thumb that I use for the most part is that I don't use words in general conversation that require cognitive thought in terms of by the average listener. What I mean by that is, if it's a word that you have to stop and think about and study, wait, what does that mean? What does a precognition mean, for example, or what is effervescent or something like that? And because that distracts from the train of thought. It distracts from the message that you're trying to get across, and it doesn't look good. People don't like a show off, and you may make a mistake, in which case you look a bigger fool. So, excuse my sniffling, it's cold. So and I'll try to hold the camera straight. So use big words with caution and use them in appropriate settings. For me, I like to reserve the big words to the places that I think they'll have the best use. For example, if I'm talking on this particular channel and I want to say something and there's a word that might be fitting, then I might use it, because the atmosphere here is one where it's somewhat appropriate for me to speak as I like. But I prefer to speak plainly whenever possible. Another place that I like to use the appropriate words is, for example, if I'm having a wonderful heated discussion on some fascinating subject with friends who enjoy talking about those same types of things and enjoy using vocabulary. Like over a coffee shop with Eric and Teenland years ago, we would throw the words around like throwing diamonds at a pig. Why do I want to say throwing diamonds at a pig orgy? Where does that image come from? But anyway, throwing diamonds in a wrestling match or something like that. What a flagrant joy it is. So that might be one use. And the third use, the place that I most enjoy using big vocabulary, is with poetry. I love to write, and not with prose typically. I try to write as plainly as I speak. But with poetry, sometimes a big word can really do an excellent job of succinctly passing along the meaning you want to intend, especially the types of poetry I like, which are very short, to the point, and sometimes a big word can really capture the essence. And your audience, anybody that comes in to read an item of poetry, is likely they're expecting some poetry, poetic words, poetic thoughts. So there we go. Big words. Use them cautiously. Treat them as the gemstones that they are, and keep in mind of your audience. Now, about gaining a big vocabulary. That really comes down to your own interests and your own innate ability. One thing that I do recommend is if you want to have a large vocabulary, surround yourself with people who have a large vocabulary and who are using it. And in modern culture, sometimes that's hard to do because we have the common language, and for the most part, we don't speak in flowery terms in everyday life. So what I recommend doing is, if you're a reader, surround yourself with literary figures who Speak in a way that you admire and use vocabulary that you think is beautiful and interesting and intriguing. For me, when I was in my teens, I began to read a lot of 19th century classics. You know, I enjoyed of course, enjoyed my Thoreau and my Emerson and Herman Melville and Charles Dickens and in an even more contemporary area, I read George Bernard Shaw or a whole host of wonderful writers, even John Steinbeck, although he has an ability to write in the common man speak to an incredible degree in terms of illustrating how the people could speak in the everyday language. He also has a very poetic way of speaking, of writing at a more of a sentence level, and as well as an individual word level. So there we go. Before I enter this traffic, let me sign off. You can surround yourself by writing or people or circumstances where you will get to see big words in usage. Keep a dictionary handy so you can look up the definitions. And then once you have them, treat them as treasures. Use them cautiously, whip them out in appropriate settings, and enjoy the thrill and satisfaction of communicating the message that you want in the most beautiful way that you can foster. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I'm going to cross the street. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Where's the button?